lessons. Professional is professional. Personal is personal. They're two separate entities. You can't do the job I need you to do, I'll still be your buddy. It won't work for me anymore. Right? So, I like to joke and have a good time, but I also need work done. So, let's see what we got, right? What is this class about? It's about getting a lot of work done and trying stuff and learning how to think through a model. Okay? I don't want you to fail on an assignment and give up, right? We don't have a lot of time, so if you're failing in your approach, you need to learn how to evaluate, adapt, overcome, and find a new pathway. That's really important. That is production, and that's what we need to be able to do. I don't have a step-by-step tutorial on how to get from start to finish on a character. And because you're going to be working on multiple characters, you're going to have to think, what method did I show in class best fits this asset for this character? Or can I use it for this, that, and the other thing, but then change it up and do a little modification on this, my other character, and this, right? So I want you to think. I want you to evaluate. I want you to learn from your mistakes. I don't grade like, oh, hey, you gave it a good shot. But I do, and I can tell when somebody's working. I do evaluate you and see if you're working hard and really pushing. Okay? It is difficult to fail this class if you complete all the assignments. Okay? Now things happen. Sometimes that is not a possibility. But if you finish everything, you do everything on time, which is a training and production, it's pretty difficult. Okay? And if you're like, well, you said it was difficult, but I'm still finding myself in that position, hopefully you would have emailed me, reached out, and we could have found a way to get you on path. Right? And if you do this, you'll get to space. Right? So, not real. No, we're not going to get to space. The other thing I want you to start doing is be confident, right? Understand how much power we have. I watch people second guess all of their actions. I watch people just freeze in their tracks. I like to watch labs. I'll watch people working and they're just doing something and they're just working slow. One, they don't have a plan. Right? They don't know exactly where to go. And you shouldn't expect to know where to go, but you should have a pretty good idea of what processes you're going to do to complete something. But with all of this power, all these pieces of software, we can do anything. We are gods in 3D. I can make anything I want. I can destroy anything I want. I can change anything I want. I just have to figure out how. Right? So what gives us this power? Yeah, snap your fingers. You want to undo? Controls easy. That right there takes any fear away from hitting the wrong button. And if it crashes, well, you saved 10 minutes ago, so what could you do? You go back to a previous save. Now, if you're not doing these things and you're not taking care of your procedures and you're not saving backups, then it's on you, right? So, but remember, you have the power. And this is a new one that I added. I had a manager that always talked about personal prompts, right? He hired me to do a job, to show up on time, open the store, run the store, close the store, and leave, right? And keep sales up. That was my job. He didn't care what was going on in my life. He didn't care about, well, my car broke down on the way to work, so I was late. He doesn't care about that. Because his job is to make sure I do my job and to make sure that the store makes money for the owners. It's his job, right? I decided to put this in last month because, and you might know people from last month's class, and that's fine, but when I have a class of 30 and I have more than 50% late requests, late extensions being asked, that destroys my work week, right? Because some of them don't get turned in until 3 days past the original deadline. So I've got to wait to grade those, right? So what this manager taught me was, don't give me your monkey. Monkeys are like little 2-year-old children, and they never grow up from being 2. They throw poop, you gotta feed them. There's a lot of responsibility, and I've already got my monkey. I already got one. I don't need yours. Okay, so whenever you're coming up with something, think about that. right? When people start forming lines and they go, I have a quick question. I had to throw this out last month as well. And I love questions, but just because it's convenient for you to ask me right here and now, it's not convenient for me. And I want to give you focus time. I'd rather you meet me in my office or via Google Hangout. Because I don't like Google Hangout. I don't care. That's not, I can meet you on Google Hangout, spend time, you make Google Hangout work. I have office hours, meet me on office hours. Okay? Because what happened was, I got a quick question. No, I got a quick question. I got a quick question. No, I got a quick question. Now there's 15 quick questions, and I'm staying after class for 45 minutes. But what do I have at home? Monkeys to take care of. My little kids, dinner, karate, whatever we've got to do. I've got to take care of those things, not for me. I'm not that flexible. Right? But I want you to take responsibility for yourself. Okay? Figure out if something's happening, try and figure out a way around it. If not, be honest. I've had people make some, smart professional decisions on what they need to do through the month, right? You got to know when to throw in the towel, when to stay in the game. But again, your problems, unfortunately, in certain cases, I try and work through your problems, and my problems are my problems. We don't try and intermesh those, okay? So, they throw food. I don't want too much food. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so this is me. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing 3D for close to 20, and I love it. I love teaching it. It's awesome. I've taught in many classes, not just character stuff. And I have a family. They do take up time outside of school, but you all have families. You've got things you need to do. That's cool. I like to show you this stuff to kind of maybe also break down that barrier. Some people are still afraid to talk to me. They're afraid to converse or ask questions, and I'm like, what's more important than your fear? Yes. Your success in this industry, right? A lot of people go, I didn't want to do that because I have a fear, I have an anxiety. Well, guess what? This industry doesn't care about that anxiety. It's a real thing. Anxieties are real. I understand. But at the end of the day, the job's got to be done. You've got to get the information. So you really got to think, what's more important? I'm afraid to talk to you, or I need to get this answer so I can get this project done. So I'm going to talk to you. Right? So that's kind of the way I would like you to start thinking if you're not thinking this way already. Okay? But again, I like stuff. You all like stuff. If some of these things are things that you like and you want to talk to me about them to break the ice, that's cool. I'm totally fine with it. Right? I like RC anything. I like dirt bikes, motorcycles, cheesy movies, bad movies, good movies. Upgrade, amazing. Have you seen Upgrade yet?
Want to?
Well, probably one of the best action films I've seen in a long time. The fights were nicely choreographed. It was really, 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 really cool. I'm a bit of an old school gamer, right? New games have slowly become just too much. And, I like Left 4 Dead. And as soon as they came Left 4 Dead 2, there's just too much of Left 4 Dead 2, right? So that kind of stuff. And my computer broke a long time ago, and I don't run games on this. But I did just convert my Wii to a Super Nintendo anyway.
Whoa!
Yeah. Playing all those old games. That's kind of fun. The only thing that stinks is the lag from the remote. You go to jump and you fall off something.
The same thing. And
Yeah.
the hardest part.
Yeah. So you gotta work the timing. But
Still fun.
yeah, no, it is good. All right. So class rules: no food or drink. I've heard some drinks open. I just took a drink. So how do we work these rules? Drinks are okay. I'm a big fan of you break it, you buy it. Right? So how does that go? You spill something that's going to stain the floors, I'm going to tell whoever comes in here that I told you you're not supposed to have drinks. Okay? It's on you. You shouldn't have spilled it. Okay? I'm not going to take the blame for that. So officially, follow the rules on the door there. Unofficially, the only thing I have a problem with really is food. Food I would say stay away from. It smells good, it's messy, touching stuff. And you want me to look at you and touch your computer, and you got crumbs and stuff on there. All right. Let's see, cell phones on silent, please. If you need to take a call, step on out. Badges on invisible, please. We gotta have them on invisible. This is the rule. I wear mine. You should wear yours. When you leave campus, yes, take it off, but it should be on. Let's see, use laptops for basically whatever you want. Just don't distract other people. Right? Now, there's another part of this. I notice, and usually when there's a big group, these things become more, I'm more aware of the issues, and I watch people and they're click, and then they ask me about something I just talked about. And why this happens is they're not paying attention to the lecture, they're working on their assets. Right? This is the time you should be focused on listening and watching, not working on your stuff. So if I feel or I catch you not paying attention and you start asking me a bunch of questions, I reserve the right not to answer your questions. Because you're supposed to be paying attention while we're doing this stuff. Not, oh, sorry, I was extruding something. What was that thing you just talked about? Well, you should have been extruding something. Pay attention, right? The other thing is, use FSO, please. I don't know how many of those things we have to do? I'm like, we'll read the first sentence of FSO that took me 6 months to write, and it will tell you exactly what you need to do. So FSO is great, and again, I'm a little heated from last month. They would ask me all kinds of, so we only have to do one? Wait, I thought we had to do one. And I'm like, no, it says right there, do 4.
Don't skim.
Yeah, don't skim. That is the worst. You're like, hey, what do I have to do? Okay, click, let's get on this. The title told me everything. No, that's not how that works. There's a lot of information in there, and please utilize that. If there's anything written, I'm always open to it. If there's anything written and you go, wow, that's kind of confusing, I'm not quite sure what they're asking me to do, let me know. Right? Maybe we can change the verbiage. That helped out a lot. I've had students go, yeah, I was reading this section, and I kind of thought I was supposed to do this. I just wanted to clarify, and I'll look at it, but then it's a little bit, let me change the word. One word can make a difference, okay? Let's see, keep it professional, but still have fun. You gotta be having a good time, otherwise, why are we doing this? It would be a terrible thing to be getting into if we didn't enjoy it. Right? How many of you are like, oh, I'm an animator, I'm this, I'm that? Yeah, shouldn't be doing that. It should be having a good time in every class you take. What part of this has really been horrible to learn?
Math.
Well, those I can't speak for those classes, but it's all exciting. When you're making stuff in the computer, you are bridging the gap to the future. I've seen it already. I've taken a time machine. I know what's out there and what we're going to be facing, and it all comes to what you're learning now. Virtual worlds. We're all it's gonna be more like the Matrix than we think. Yeah. Let's see, what else we got? Campus versus online. There are some differences. I've tried to kind of narrow things down. There's really only one main difference between how participation is graded between campus and online. But some things I might say, I don't want to answer that, go ahead and check it out on FSO. And it's not because I don't want to answer your question, it's because it might be different than online, and since they're joining us during the sessions, I don't want to say something, and then they go, wait, well, I thought it was this, and so on and so forth. So, FSO for the details. Let's see, how's your work going to be broken down? What does the month look like? So we'll look at it written, and then we'll look at it in an image. So we've got 20%. That is your professionalism and your participation. These are real easy grades to get. Show up, be professional, you get your professionalism. Okay? The other one is participation. This is different. Participation for online is gauged through their integrated activities and participation there and the discussion. And then for you guys, it's your daily submissions. Okay, so every day you're in class, every day you're in lab, you should be submitting an image. This is for campus. You would be submitting an image of what you've been working on and posting it to the assignments. Right? If you need a reminder, set a reminder. Right? Or make sure FSO is open every day. You're looking at it and making sure that you have everything submitted. Those are auto-graded. There are no second chances. If you miss that daily submission, just count it as 1% off your grade, because there's 10 of them, and we'll just go from there. Okay? Let's see, what do we got? Another 80%. Okay, another 80% is broken down into 20% per week. We will take this through a production environment. We're going to be doing blockouts, then we're going to be refining into secondary forms, then we're going to be enhancing those secondary forms. Last week, we're going to be looking at resurfacing and how do we now get the model ready for the next stage of a production pipeline. We will be stopping at the secondaries, high-end secondary shapes, and resurfacing. We will not be going into tertiaries or anything like that. So what I'm concerned with is the cake. I want a good cake. Publix has the best cakes. The icing is just on top of that deliciousness. So if you're not really good at creating the good structures, the forms, you put textures on it, it's still going to look off. It's not going to look right. So we want to learn how to make the best shapes possible. So how is this going to look? It's going to look like this. Okay, we're going to start with selecting character reference. First week is 6. We'll be doing 6 blockouts. We'll be taking those blockouts to, if you look here at week 1, this is more of a proof of concept blockout. So it's a little more involved than just a stick figure blockout. The term blockout has many different meanings in different parts of our industry. I mean, a blockout literally could be some pieces shoved together, but not for our class, not for this class. We're going to push it a little further. Week 1 is you getting acclimated to the functionality of ZBrush if you're not well versed in it already. Okay, so it is your way to kind of push and pull and keep things simple by staying with one mesh and sculpting, getting familiar with the sculpture brushes and moving your camera. Again, we're doing 6 separate characters. Please, every month I get it, I feel really bad giving like a 20 for week 1, but they'll do one model 6 different ways. It'll be the same subject reference. I'm like, no, we need 6, all different. So you're going to pick 6 characters, you're going to model them all, block them all out in week 1. Okay? All different. Okay, so imagine this done for 6 completely different subjects. Now we have week 2. Week 2, we're going to go in and we're going to take that single mesh. This is one mesh, minus the hood. They asked if they can separate the hood, but everything else is sculpted out of one mesh. Then over here, we're going to separate that mesh into pieces. Now we're going to establish the parts of the model. This is where it gets more technical. We're going to take 4 of our 6 models from week 1, and we're going to take those into week 2. 4 of them. And we're going to build the shirt. We're actually going to build the straps. We're going to build the layers. We're going to establish those as separate pieces. We're going to set up our canvases. So that way in week 3, we can make them look better. Now this is labeled week 3 and 4 because you can see there's hair. Hair is a week 4 production, a week 4 asset. But you can see how the model keeps getting good. Look at the face. Soft skull structures, planes of the face established. Now it's got eyelids, nostrils, lips. Okay. One thing to pay attention to, make sure you're delivering what we're asking each week. Another trouble zone for people is they'll go in week 1 and they'll establish a face that would be ready for week 2, but they're doing it in week 1. Now they go into week 2 and they don't change the face because they say, it's already done. That's part of the grading criteria for week 2. So I'm not going to give you points again. I gave you those points for week 1. So then you get it incomplete because the head hasn't evolved. Does that make sense? This is a lesson in delivering what you're asked to deliver. And we get people get real excited. They're like, eyelids in week 1, and I did this and I did that. And then I go, you really didn't leave yourself any room to run for the rest of the month. And your skull structure is wrong, your core body shapes are wrong. I really wish you focused on the things for that week versus going ahead. Right? Because going ahead hurt you. Now you have to destroy a lot of that work to make the structure better so it's more production friendly. So look at the each week, the main competency for the week does give you things to focus on, things not to focus on. Follow those and make sure you're hitting those elements, okay? And you will see a progression as you go through. And if it's super easy for you, then just make it the best it can be at the state it needs to be in. But we go from 6 assets to 4 assets, finishing up the month with 2 final characters. And again, it's not final. I don't want to say final. We're not taking completion, but we're taking a nice, strong, high-end secondary, no surface details or tertiary details. Okay? Any questions? Question? Yeah. Because we got to think more. This is the part people hate. I just want to make stuff. And again, what we notice in portfolio classes and all this stuff is people just don't pre-think their processes. They don't think about things before they get going. It'd be like jumping in a car you've never been in, just screaming down the highway, and then you go to hit the blink and realize it's on the other side of what you're used to. Right? You ever jump in a car that's you driving stick and then you jump in an automatic and you jam on the brake thinking it's the clutch? Anybody even drive stick anymore? They're fun. I love driving stick. Not in traffic. They suck in traffic, but when you're like, oh, you want to pass them, you're just dropping into gear and pass somebody and downshift. You should learn how to drive. It's a lot of fun. So you probably don't get that analogy at all. So, anyway, we're going to go into just thinking. What do we have to think about before we start creating? Okay? Anybody working on projects with another group? They're like, hey, I want you to model me something. Yeah? You ever run into any problems where you model it, you deliver it, and they go, that's not really what I need something different?
Yeah.
They should have told you that ahead of time. You just wasted your time. Okay? So whenever you get into that kind of thing, you got to ask the question. What do we know? What do we have? What do we need? That's what I need to know to do my job right. Okay, so if you have these questions throughout the month, and it's not an episode, you've got to ask. But you don't want to blindly do something and then turn it into an art director and then go, this is not what we needed. We needed this. Well, I didn't know that. Well, you should have figured it out. You should have found a way to get the information. So, first thing, and probably most important, is what are we building it for? Purpose dictates process. That's something I talk a lot about. What is it for? Is it a background? Is it hero? Does this character need to have clothing? Are they going to run cloth sim? Are we going to run muscle sim? What are we going to do with it? What kind of actions will it be doing? That's going to tell us a lot. But one of the bigger ones is, what's the platform? What are you building it for? Film, animation, print, game. These will all tell you things about how you can go about building. Or it'll give you a pathway to start researching properly. Okay? So, film, right? Both of these procedures, we're probably going to start with a sculpture. The whole modeling thing, film versus game. There's still a lot of differences between the two, but they both start with a good shape. They both start with sculpture usually, and then resurfacing. The main difference is we're going to try and get a lot of stuff via maps until games. They're getting stronger and stronger. We're seeing a lot of development there, some muscle system usage, cloth usage, things like that. But again, film is hyper real, super close. We're going to really push taking away any type of uncanny valley or anything like that in our characters. So, yes, he is by far the best. Until he talks. That whole Ragnarok and talking thing, I wasn't much of a fan of that. I just want to see him beat things up. Yes. I still love 2004 Hulk when he comes out and he tears up that tank and he beats it up with the turret. What I'm talking about? You guys awake? We're still. I'm looking at everybody. Kind of wait. I know it's Monday. He's getting a hard weekend, finishing up his time. Right? Printing and prototyping, huge industry, huge industry. In this, people look at that geometry and they go, oh man, that's terrible. It's all triangulated, but it's the print. Anybody run a 3D printer? Okay, well, if modeling is something you want to get into, I would probably look down the avenue of printing because a lot of people want things printed, and if you can model or whatever, you can alter stuff for print or get a job prepping models for print. But there's things we have to think about. tolerances, what kind of printer, what kind of material are we using? Can it be open? Can it have a hole, or does it need to be watertight? Can I just jam things together, or is it better to bullion them together or Dynamesh them together? Does it have to be fused? These are all things to think about. And printers are cheap now. You can get a really decent one running for $400. I don't want to say that's super cheap, but that's less than a new gaming system and some games. So, and you get the whole stuff that you need. Animation needs to move, right? This is another thing, thinking about the production, thinking about the pipeline, and you look at the character and you realize that in one shot, their arm's going to droop down to the floor. Well, you need to have enough geometry in the model to be able to support that type of curvature, that type of motion. So paying attention to density, paying attention to your parameterization on your model, what type of geometry you're putting in there is going to be important. Okay? And then my big thing, I like to look at stuff. Right? Here's people going to an art gallery and saying, wow, that's paint drizzled on there. I want to make something like that. How did they drizzle the paint? What layers are first? What colors maybe did they start with? So if you're going to model something or you're going to animate something, do you start by going online and looking at other people's work? I do. It's great. Let's see how somebody that does this every single day, all day long, does an animation. Maybe there's a time lapse of them animated. What keyframes, what poses do they hit first? Are they using any tools that I don't know about or use? Okay? Look at other people's artwork. I started mentioning this last month, but we're at a time where, all right, ArtStation. How many of you have ArtStation accounts? How many critiques do you get via ArtStation? None, because is ArtStation a forum? No, it's a portfolio. It's a digital portfolio. How about the 3D Arts, FS 3D Arts forum thing they're posting? You get some good critiques on there? No. It's isolated to the school. How many of you post on CG Society, Work in Progress forum? So people in Russia, China, Europe, California, Canada can see your work. None? Start. Right? Now, if you're going to do that, I don't recommend saying, hey, I'm a first-time modeling character, I'm a Full Sail, I'm a student. Just put, I'm starting to dabble in character modeling, or I'm starting to dabble in this type of animation, would love some comments and critiques, and then you start fishing. If somebody gives you a good comment, that's somebody to look into. And then you can maybe start creating connections in the industry. Right? Staying too isolated here is you're gonna get, yeah, awesome, good job, and you'll get a couple of good critiques, but we're at the point, we're now on the bachelor's side of things, right? The first 10 months was your associate side, and now we're in the bachelor's side. And you gotta start getting other professionals to look at your work. Right? So I would hit, my favorite was always, it used to be CG Talk, CG Chat, and then it was like 3D Everything, and 3D Total, and High-End 3D. And a lot of them merged to create the CG Society. But I believe if you type in cgtalk.com, it'll take you to their main forum. And there's a work in progress section. So a lot of people are posting what they're working on and getting critiques and comments and then posting again and updating. And that's a wonderful way to start looking at other people's work and getting your stuff looked at from people around the world. A little bit more professional, so get your stuff out there. What kind of tools do we have to get the job done? Right? I want to do something. Oh man, I can't get that thing in ZBrush to work. What do I have in Maya that'll do the same thing? Right? Think about your toolbox. Think about what's there. And sometimes you might use a tool that's unconventional, but it works. It gets the job done. If it's anything outside of the main programs that we use, I need you to ask. Okay? Not just, oh yeah, I just did this all in Blender. It's like, even though nowadays it really doesn't matter as long as it's functional and you can get things done and you're not worried about not practicing the programs that you're mainly going to be using. Does anybody know really why Blender is not used in the industry? Does anybody work with Blender? Blender's pretty powerful. It's got a lot of things. Why don't you think companies use it? Because it's kind of a one-stop shop. Anybody know?
I never actually thought of that.
No tech support. It's a community-run thing. So if I write a plugin for it, it crashes it, I've got nobody to turn to but the community. So companies can't rely on that. So when you got these big companies that have tech support, they're the ones that are writing the stuff, and they're not really just packing broken tools in there. It's a little bit different. It's kind of like PC versus Mac. They're very selective versus, hey, I just downloaded a new cat. Oh, I got it. Sweet. PC stuff. Right, so think about tools. Think about production. Again, why are you building it? Where's it going to go when it leaves your hand, right? You're not the one that's going to be the only person messing with your asset. It's going to go somewhere else. And it came from somewhere else. So they were thinking about what you needed to do with it. They prepped it for you. Now you're going to prep it for somebody else. So think about, where is it going to go? Is it pipeline friendly? Otherwise you get a bunch of angry people. Right? And another big problem I notice is people think that they're always going to be there to explain what's not working. A lot of times your files are pulled up in a meeting and you're not there. You're probably off because you're maybe night shift and they're pulling up files during a meeting for investors and your stuff doesn't work and you're not there to explain it. So you want to make sure there's not a lot to explain. Okay? Programs, we're going to be using ZBrush, Maya, and Photoshop. Certain things we have you forced to do or we're forcing you to do them in Maya because we don't want you to forget Maya. Maya is a great modeling tool, so we're going to utilize that throughout the month. ZBrush, though, is going to be mainly what we're pushing, and then, of course, doing some nice Photoshop stuff. Just more for studies. Have a plan of attack. What's your pipeline? What's your workflow? Okay, pipelines and workflows are a little bit different. A pipeline is more of what does the asset do? Where does it go? Right? Do I build it to a certain point and then send it to rigging, then continue modeling on it, and rigging takes it, and they send the animation, and then I finish the model, then it goes texture, and then it comes back together. What's its pipeline? Workflow is more what tools do I use? What do I do to establish things first? What do I set up? How do I like to situate reference, that kind of stuff. But regardless, think about it. Think about why you're doing what you're doing and how you're going to do it. I ask people, what's your plan for this block out? Oh, I'm probably going to use zSpheres. Okay, that's great. How are you going to use zSpheres? What resolution are you going to kick it out at? And then what brushes will you target first to establish your main shapes? And then after that, what brushes will you gravitate to once you've got your main shapes and you want to start refining this? Well, I don't know. Well, then you don't have a plan. How long will it take you? How long will you spend on zSpheres? Second stage, establishing your main volumes and forms, and then stage 3, refining those shapes. How long will you spend on each one of those processes? 2 hours, 3 hours, I don't know until it's done. That's a bad one. Don't do that. That's how you lose track of time. Start thinking in hours, start thinking in quarter hours. That's probably the best. Right? This is going to take me 2.5 hours to do. It's got to be done in 2.5 hours, at least to a passable standard. And then I'm going to move into stage 2. I'll spend 2 hours refining those shapes, and I'll spend 0.5 hours cleaning it up or getting it ready for a submission. Okay? Now that asset's done. You spent 5 hours on it or whatever. And you slate at the end of the week 1 hour per asset to go back in and clean up. Okay? But you got to run schedules like that. Otherwise, you'll end up nickel and diming an asset or noodling on that asset for a full day and a half, and then you run out of time to complete everything. Okay? The name of the game in this class is completion. Completion to at least a 70. Right? What kills people is they produce, let's say, first week is 6 assets. They produce 3 really strong assets. And then 1 is kind of half there and the other 2 aren't finished. Okay, so they score a 90. We'll just keep the numbers. So they score a 100 on their 2 gradable assets. And then I look at the other ones for completion and I realize, well, you're missing 2 assets and 1 is half done. Okay, so your 100 now gets dumped to a 75 because the assignment was not complete. Okay, so what does that tell you? Get everything done, then go back and refine. Okay, we do in week 1 and week 2. We have this is where the completion comes into play because there's so many assets. We only grade 2 of your character blockouts fully, and the other ones are graded on a completion standard. right? So the other four are, would it score a 70 and is it complete? First thing, it has to be complete. It's got to have all limbs and major parts that it would need. And the next one is, would it score a 70? Right, that tells me it's complete. So you got to get those there, but then your other two would be the ones you really kind of spend a little bit more time refining and making those awesome. So it kind of tells you, if you want to have a better chance at week 2, kind of start figuring out which models you want to progress with until the end of the class. You may not know, you might change your mind, and that's okay, but it is best if you can plan that as you go. And week 2 is the same way. We grade the 2, the other 2 are graded on completion. So plan accordingly. Make sure you've given yourself enough time. Now, you've all heard the pearl divers. Have you ever heard that thing where the diver has to... Have you gone diving before? Scuba diving? It's kind of neat. You want to feel like you're on a different planet? Go scuba diving. You're like 90 feet down standing and you can see a mile that way, a mile that way. And if you ever go in the Cayman Islands, right off of the shore, you go out about 600 yards, and it drops. Scary. It's scary because you're standing there and looking down, and there's just nothing. And you're already at like 90 feet, and then you go down the shelf a little bit, and then somebody grabs your fin and goes, no, you don't go back up. You're too deep. It's surreal. It's really, really cool. Expensive hobby, though. So I think it's been 20 years since I've actually done that. But when you're diving and you go down, you got to do a bunch of things, right? One, you got to check your air, you got to make sure your gear's on, you go down, and when you come up, you can only come up so fast. Okay? They say travel to be safe, don't go faster than your slowest bubble. Right? And then when you get to a certain point, if you've been down deep for any bit of time, you got to hang out for like 10 minutes, about 3 feet deep, to let your body decompress. Right? You don't want to get the vents. The vents is the gas trying to squeeze through every little pore in your body or every little blood vessel in your body. Not a good thing to do. So you hang out, right? So imagine, if you will, that you dove down and you found this really cool thing. And then, let's say you're rich and you've got that little monitor and somebody's like, oh, come back to the boat, we have a question for you. And you're down there really deep, you gotta come all the way down. You're now hanging out, and you get out and you take your gear off, and you're like, what's up? And they're like, hey, what do you want for lunch? And you're like, seriously? I just found it, I gotta get down there. Now the boat's drifting, right, a little bit. You gotta try and go back down exactly where you were. Find out, it's going to take you how much more time to get down there and get back to where you were, because you're not quite sure, you didn't mark it, you don't know, somebody just wasted your time with a silly question. That's working. You give yourself timetables, you give yourself a schedule, work for that 4 hours. Don't work and then be like, maybe hit some button, hey, what's going on? Oh man, that's funny, Facebook, let's do some, oh, why you just posted it? Oh, that's great. Oh, did you see that show? You're going to be so slow. You're not going to get stuff done. Stick to your schedule. Work. Okay? Our pipeline and workflow for our models will follow a pretty much standard workflow, which is base mesh, sculpture detail, and then resurface model. Right? And then we're going to pull normal maps and things like that from it. So as far as this goes, we're going to run you through a lot of different workflows, a lot of different pipelines. This is what we're going to do. We need a base mesh, and we're going to sculpt on it, break it into pieces, and we're going to resurface it. So we're going to use this type of thing. We might do ZBrush for one of our blockouts, and then ZBrush for our sculpt, and then our resurface in Maya. We can do Maya base mesh, and we'll be doing a Maya blockout sculpt. We're pretty much going to sculpt it. You might do something like that. You might do something like this, which is another third-party package for resurfacing. This one we're not going to do. We're not going to do resurfacing. We're going to stay to Maya for the resurfacing. If somebody knows how to do it in ZBrush and you want to go through that procedure, and I don't mean ZRemesher, I mean the actual point clicking and building your topology, you're more than welcome to do that. But this is more so where people land, and jumping back and forth, and then some people go crazy. They jump in and out of software packages all day long. We're not going to do that. right? So, but we are gonna find our way. We will have specific types of builds that need to be done, and then you can kind of pick and choose how you wanna build after you've got the required builds completed, okay? But you have to know what you're building, right? I need a base mesh. What am I gonna build in? Cool, all right, let me do that. Now I need a sculpture. What am I gonna do that in? All right, cool. Now we're gonna resurface. Helpful hints for the month. What's gonna help you? Study human form. Right? I love it. People go, I don't know what that looks like. I've got a hand, I can see that. There it is. No. Right? And why does it look right at the moment? Okay? So we gotta start really studying, observing, looking at it. Don't be a creeper, but look at people. Right? The first foot I modeled, anybody that walked past was fair game. Can I see your foot? Can I see your foot? Can I see your foot? Everybody wore flip-flops. Right? But I got to see and I started realizing, wow, there's a lot of differences in people's feet. I don't want every character to have my feet. Right? I want to look at feet and kind of find out what makes feet different. Right? And that's just what you do. Okay? You know what's also good is, how many of you live in a place that does not have a mirror in the bathroom? Okay, cool. Get in the bathroom and take a picture. Not a creepy bathroom pic, but take a picture. I would take, for like costumes and stuff, I might put something over me and then take a picture, see what it looks like, and then sketch over it, kind of get a better look at how that, whatever the outfit is, or the anatomy would be. I mean, it just works out. Find good stuff to study. Study anatomy. You guys think that anatomy just deals with human and animal and organic things? No. This computer has anatomy. Your car has anatomy. There are certain things that make up a vehicle that need to be there if you're modeling a vehicle, right? So anatomy kind of gives us a nice checklist. I don't want you to be a doctor, but know anatomy. Understand how it works. We're going to be doing anatomy studies every week. We'll focus on a body part, and where you're integrated, you'll go through. Starts with the torso, then goes to the head, then goes arms and legs, right? If you're going to do anatomy studies, écrochet. Écrochet is best. If you really want to learn it, don't do just an écrochet sculpt. Do you guys know what écrochet means? You should. What is it? Yeah, without skin. That's really all it means. You might have heard the term used in Art 1 or whatever the art classes are now. But écrochet just means a study without skin. So if you really want to learn the anatomy, instead of doing just a sculpture on something, build. Right? Take a sphere and ZBrush, because we're going to be doing this in ZBrush, and form each muscle strand, muscle structure, and then say this is the bicep, this is the tricep. I'm just creating each one of these pieces, and then you'll get a better study. Okay, observe and study surface flow. Start watching highlights and shadows. Like I can look at that screen right there, and I can see some shadow. I'm going to step away from the cameras. You may not be able to hear me online, but I can see this. There's a wave here. Shadow, highlight, shadow. Okay, so based on how I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing how the light is switching or changing and moving from highlight to shadow, it tells me how aggressive the shape is. So therefore, when I put it on my model, I can better evaluate that I get it right or not. So look at how light moves on a surface. Try and see if you can see the arc of the surface. Or is it a hard edge, soft edge? What kind of curves going on there? Seek a critique. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. Get some critiques from each other. And when you are doing a critique for each other, make it a good one. What I like to do, I don't like to look at your stuff right after class. I hate that. I hate it because I can't, again, I'm not giving you that focused time. But what I really like is I open up my email and I see an image with your reference and your model from a couple different angles. And I make you a video and I sketch on it. And I upload that to YouTube and I send you the link. Right? That's a much better procedure. The other way is to come see me or do a Google Hangout or be better at critiquing each other. We'll talk about some methods and some things that help for the critiquing procedure. Let's see, study wireframes. We're going to be looking at wireframes, and wireframes are becoming, I won't say they're less important because they're still very, very important. And there will be a day when who cares? Each character is 50 million polygons. Who cares? We'll rig that, no big deal. But we're not there yet. We still have a lot that we need to think about as we're building. Also, wireframes, different types of build processes deliver different types of wireframes, different types of topology layouts. So it's good to understand that and kind of understand what the box junction better used for. What's a diamond junction used for? Why are star junctions bad? Why are they good? How are they used in a model? When should they be used and when should they be avoided? Right? T-junctions. Why is a T-junction? Is a T-junction good? Is it bad? Is it okay? Can I use it in my process? I don't know. Train your eyes to see. Okay? All of this stuff will help you see. So when you are giving critique, you'll be able to point out to somebody, hey, your skull structure is wrong. I can't feel the temporal region. Okay? The zygomatic arch is not there. Your cheekbones are gone. This plane on the side of the face is not correct. You'll be able to see that stuff. Okay? Your eyes will lie to you a lot this month. You're going to be sculpting and you're just going to be so happy to be making stuff. And you're going to be looking at it for hours and hours and hours. And you're going to go, it looks pretty good. And you're going to show it to me. And I'm going to maybe make you sad. And I don't want to make you sad, but I'm just being honest. Right? I'm just saying, hey, we need to tell this. Because I have fresh eyes. I haven't seen your asset before. I'm looking at it for the first time. Things are going to pop out to me. Whereas to you, they're blurry. Because you've been looking at them for hours and your brain is like, no, that was good. I like it. Look what we made. We made something cool. Okay? And it is cool, but I want to help you make it cooler. Questions so far? Any? No? All right. Moving on. I have more excitement than everybody in the room. I got 5 hours of sleep last night. I'm feeling good. More sleep than I've gotten in a long time. I know. I was really happy. I was like, 5 hours. Let's do this. All right. So let's get to it. I think people sleep too much. When you're here, 4 hours is like you go to 2 hour power nap here or there. You know, you sleep too much, you end up groggy. You sleep 15 minutes, you're ready. Right? Yeah. Anybody take a 15-minute power nap and feel like on top of the world after that?
It's
You're not doing
50,
it right. Yeah, you're not doing it. You gotta be able to. You have to be so tired that within 30 seconds you're in REM sleep, and then you gotta wake up and just get up. Because if it's because you're so tired, you fall asleep. Delano Anthus, that guy would fall asleep. You'd be talking to him, he'd fall asleep every single time. You'd be like, hey man, what's going on, Delano? Oh, I'm just working on this and that. You're like, dude, wake up. He's like, oh, hey, yeah. And they start working. Now, you don't want to kill yourself. You know? Like you said, if you do this, you will start physically being in pain. That's good. That means you're in the right place. All right, so we're going to go right to good old FSO. We're going to look at the first things that need to be done. So I'm going to go in here and manage my section. Hey, look, more pictures. Just kidding. Yeah, give me those pictures. What did I say? I was going to take a percent of GPS away every day that we don't have a picture?
Professionalism.
Professionalism. That's GPS. Did I say GPS?
No, it's a professionalism.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sound good? Right? No? Okay. All right, so let's look at FSO. I mean, it is set up like you've seen before. You should see your welcome to Marriage Modeling Fundamentals. And yes, I'm still sifting through trying to pull out everything that mentions CDC. So that was the old name. So, you know, do what I can. Course overview, very important. A lot of really good stuff here. And, you know, I always love it when I see somebody asking for an extension or they really need help. And then 2 days later they go, I emailed you, I have this problem. I go, yeah, I saw that email. Well, you didn't respond. I'm like, yeah. Why? Because you didn't use the correct subject line formatting. And it says in there, if you don't use that, you're not going to get your emails. Oh, look, you checked it, you read and understood that assignment. Why aren't you using it? Oh, okay. And then I watch and I'll see an email come through on Monday, and then Tuesday comes through reminding me, and then on Wednesday I see it come through the right way. Oh, sorry, I just realized I wasn't using the correct subject line format. Do you understand why we want you to use that email subject line formatting? It's the one that's got the name, the class, and the number, and the what's your problem kind of thing. Organization. That's a one. I get a lot of emails. This helps organize who you are, what class you're in, what section you're in, and then it tells me what the issue is. Okay. So please utilize that. Grading policy, instructor contact schedule. This is a good one too. This is going to get you things like, hey, what's my email? Okay. That is definitely my preferred method of contact. And then lake procedures, how to utilize that if you need an extension. I don't need to know why, just request the extension before the deadline. Here's the Open Lab schedule for the online Open Lab schedule. This is where you go, man, I need help, but you're not available over the weekends. Well, guess what? We've got people on Google Hangout that are instructors pretty much every day for 8 hours a day. And there is a schedule for that. FS Modeling Department page, really good resource if you want to be a modeler or just kind of want to be a modeler for this month, because you will be a modeler for this month. Join that. There's some really great guy from McFarlane Toys on there that gives some feedback. Scott Sakelin's on there. He's always giving good feedback. Good articles being thrown up there. And you get links to the online help as well. Now, the other thing here in this contact schedule, you'll see this. The CDC Google Hangout, and you'll also see the Modeling Department Google Hangout. There are two separate ones. I set up one that is class specific. So, I'm a big proponent on working in groups, working with each other, having somebody right there that you can go, hey, do you remember when we sat in class with this idea of thing? Yes, I do, instead of waiting for a day. So what you can do is you can jump on there. You have to add it to your calendar. Otherwise, the links, it doesn't work if you don't just click on this and it goes, but you click on it and say add to my calendar, copy to my calendar. Once it's on your Google Calendar, you can go in there and join Hangout. I'm not going to be in there all the time, but I like to use it for if you have a question, you can't make it to my desk, well, I can meet you on here. I can do that while I'm away on vacation. I can do it while before I go to bed. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can make this work. I can't do that all the time, but if I've got the resources, I will do that. But if you guys want to work together, but you don't want to go sit at somebody's smelly house because they have a roommate that never washes the dishes, you don't have to go there. You can hang out on here and work and show your screen to them. They can show their screen to you. It's a great resource. So we have the Modeling Department one. There's 3 rooms there, and there's people from other classes that will be there. And then there's a CDC or CMF specific one. Okay? So utilize that, please. Good way to work with other people. Okay, and then we've got academic integrity. Don't cheat. Any usage of pre-made assets or articles or anything that you yourself did not make, or even if you did make them, and I've seen them before, right? We get into some tricky things. Don't use it, because I don't want to have that conversation. I know I'm very familiar with TurboSquid. I'm very familiar with Poser and assets used for Poser. I'm very familiar with everything that's out there. I've got a folder with downloaded assets that we've collected so far, and I know, usually. I'd say 99% of the time I know people are using it. And then what will happen is we'll have a conversation and we'll go to class and all that good stuff. Right? So we don't want to go down that road. But if you're curious as to what it is, just jump in there. Late work, there's a polish for that. And important announcements, how to ask for critiques, some more links on stuff. Check that out. Go to training, lecture information. All right, so we've got the main link that you would be using every time you want to sign in and join us on the Go to Training Hangout, or what we're doing now, the Go to Training lecture. And then the archive lecture. So as soon as I get this one downloaded and recorded and downloaded, and then put on YouTube and the link posted, that's when this one will green light and open up. I also have previous lectures from a previous month. So if you're like, hey, I want to watch all of the lectures for this week ahead of time, you can do that. Okay? They will be posted. So you'll have current lectures, and you have previous month's lectures that you can utilize. Those usually get posted, like this one will get posted probably by either late tonight or early tomorrow. But within 24 hours of the lecture, those will be posted. Okay? And then you'll see that actively. Dailies, this is for campus only, so if we have any online students joining us right now, this is, you don't have to worry about it, this is for the campus students, right? You post every time you're in lab, you go through and you post automatically. By the end of the day, 11:59 is cut off, and we get the, yep, perfect. Those are those, and then we start week 1. Lesson 1, starting a character model. Everyone's going to do the modeling warm-up. I would suggest doing that right away. That's going to introduce you to Z-Spheres, Dynamesh, and it's going to introduce you to ZBrush a little bit. We do have some intro to ZBrush videos on the main assignment, so please make sure you're utilizing them. We do kind of piggyback. Were you a class that got ZBrush still in MCR? Were you one of the courses? I don't think we have the course because they switched to Substance. They're not using ZBrush anymore. And I don't think we're getting those students yet, but I always like to double check and make sure.
Yeah, we use ZBrush.
Okay, good. So you have a base understanding of ZBrush. I know it was 6 months ago, but we can't forget the information that we've gotten. So that'll help you with the modeling warm-up. Okay, you're modeling a cactus. One in Maya, it's the same cactus model. One in Maya, one with Z-Script, one with Dynamesh. Super simple. Yes?
Do we need to download that?
No, it's right in built in the ZBrush already. So you're good. So do that first. That's a nice warm-up. Right? You can probably warm up, right? Then the other one is a first read, all right? This assignment here is one that's going to kind of get you in the practice of looking and breaking down your reference, looking at and breaking down your reference. So you would select your 6 characters. The details of selecting your characters are in this assignment, and they should be also in this assignment as well. But you're going to select your 6. You're going to take 2 of those models. I would try and recommend looking at all 6 and picking out the ones that you're really kind of jazzed about and you know you're going to take at least in a week 2 and possibly in week 3, right? If you can figure out which ones those are before you start getting into this assignment, that would be better, but not mandatory. And you're going to take those images and you're going to do a first read. So what is a first read? Let's look at overview. You're going to create 2. So how many do we have to do? How many first read images? 2. Yeah, 2 first read images in Photoshop. Do we have to use Photoshop? Yeah. Okay. The other question we get. Let's see. Must use Photoshop pen tool. Do we have to use the pen tool, or can we just color these in? Pen tool. How to use the pen tool? See, there's some information there. Right. So we're going to go and we're going to create an image that looks like this. This is going to help us identify the major parts and pieces that make up our character. This is also going to help us study the silhouette of those parts and pieces. Okay? Simple characters need to be pushed a little further and broken down. I love it when people try and take the simple character and do their first reads on it, and they're like, I only have 3 shapes to outline. Haha, sucker. Push it a little further. Right? You might break it down a little further than somebody that chooses a character like this that has all these pieces. Next thing, again, pointing out important information. You have to label. You have to label all the parts and pieces. Oh, it says right there, labeling of parts is optional. Okay, so let's look at another way of doing it. Here's another one. Are these A quality? I don't know. They're good. Are they 100%? Remember, example images are examples of how the assignment should be done. They are not targets to go, if I do this, I'm getting an A. But these are really nice. They would score very well. Okay, but again, you can see breaking down the pieces. Could this have gone further, right? When I look at examples, I go, how could I have made it better? Maybe the buckles are separate. I would model them separate. So if it's something I would model separate, I might choose to break it into its own piece. Like these little pieces here, the little nubs, maybe, right? So that's another reason that I like to do an exercise like this, because as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the pieces. Now my mind starts thinking about how to model those. Would that be 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces? You know? Thinking about it. I'm starting to develop my plan as I identify the parts and pieces. So you'll be doing 2 of those. Right? 1 and 2. I like to. They will be submitted side by side. Similar to this, we do give you Photoshop templates to follow. I look at the accuracy and the identification. How well did you identify the parts, and how accurate are they? Okay, did you really go in there and identify, giving me a good sense that you've identified all those pieces, or did you kind of skip over and oversimplify some of these parts and pieces? Right? And then, are they accurate? You can see here, this is a discrepancy. If you look at the transition at the top of the cap, and then you see that little nub there, that little point. If I were to model that, it would feel pretty weird. There's this little point sticking out there. Okay? So it also helps you develop some of your shapes. And then the strategy. The strategy write-up's very important. They kind of tell you what, step 1, step 2, step 3. And then we have characters to choose from, examples, and reading resources at the bottom. Okay, so that's assignment number 1 after the integrated. Are the first reads, and I'll go through how you might approach that, go through the pen tool, how to use the pen tool, so on and so forth. The integrated for the torso study, we do that next class. So that'll be Wednesday. And then we have the competency block out here. This is the next big one. Okay. The week 1 deliverables, this is what you would put all of your submission, your assets for submission into the deliverable. You do not submit to any type of explore competency. The only thing we submit to, the actual assignment would be the integrated. And it'll tell you to submit to this assignment, okay, and the dailies. All your main week assignments go into week 1. Let's look at blockouts. Okay, you create 6 blockouts of different characters using a series of supplied or selected images. We'll be modeling these figures using different techniques. One must be modeled using Maya, one with Dynamesh and ZBrush, and one with ZSpheres and ZBrush. The last 3 blockouts will be built using your preferred build method. So we're going to force you to build with Maya, so you understand how to build with Maya, and you can maybe better evaluate the pluses and minuses of building in Maya. Then we're going to build with Z-spheres, 100% Z-spheres, because you're going to need to experience what it's like to have a giant star junction in the middle of your model, or what it's like to work with subdivisions. Then we're going to build one completely out of Dynamesh, so we get a better feel of how to pool and update Dynamesh as we're creating shape. Okay? Then after that, you can go, you know what, I really like Dynamesh for shaping, but I like establishing my structure with Z-spheres. So you can do a Z-sphere to Dynamesh build. Or you can do Maya, bring it in, subdivide it, and then continue sculpting. You can do hybrid builds for the last 3. Whatever ones you choose, what you choose. Do you have to stay with that for the entire month? No. Week 2, we start to open it up more. You just put whatever you built in Maya, you want to do that. Next week, you want to continue with it, bring it into ZBrush, Dynamesh, and continue. Okay, but for week 1, you have those 3 specific builds, and then there's the other 3 that you can kind of figure out how you want to build. All right, so let's take a look here. Here is an example of a Maya build. Maya, what you'll find with Maya is, 1, you're pretty familiar with the software. 2, you have exact and direct control of your topology, so you can kind of situate some things that you know you're going to need, like this cuffs. I was able to just grab the faces there and extrude outward a little bit very simply, so that way when I go into ZBrush, I know that I just subdivide, and that shape is already going to be accounted for. But on the other hand, there are some things that would be overcomplicated to try and create in Maya, like his collars. You can see that I'm paying attention to his jacket shape, but I'm ignoring his collars, because his collars in ZBrush, I can just add another subdivision and sculpt them out. But in Maya, I have to figure out how I'm going to chop through that topology to generate that shape. So certain things are more complex or harder to handle in Maya, but other things are easier. Anytime I need anything very specific, I'd probably start in Maya. Most things, I'm going to choose ZBrush for my starting point. I prefer the ZBrush. Sorry, not ZBrush, but the ZSphere to Dynamesh workflow. But again, I want you to go through that. Look at the topology layout, right? So most human figures or even cartoon figures, right here is your tutorial on how to build. You can count. 1, you can see the shape I started with. You can see the procedure and how I started developing the shapes. And you can see the topology and the layout that is being used for that. Okay, so you can see that it started with a 12-sided cylinder, got the torso shaped out, cut it in half, pulled 8-sided cylinders for right out of this main shape, pulled an 8-sided arm, 8-sided leg. The hand was built separately. It's a 20-sided cylinder with 8-sided fingers. And just an easy way to kind of build a hand. And then stuck into the bottom. Everything else is one piece. The head, the feet, all one piece. The hands, they need a little bit more, so they are separate. I don't want you just jamming stuff in Maya together. A lot of people go down that road, there's like, here's an arm, and they stick it on there, here's another arm, and here's a pocket, and they just jam this stuff together. I want you to go a little bit further with that. If you are going to do that, it should be connected at the end of the day. Right? It should all be one nice solid mesh. Except for things like the hand. There's fingers there. The fingers greatly increase the amount of topology, and I didn't want to carry that all into the arm. Okay? People ask, do I have to model it in pose or should it be in A pose? You'll notice that both examples here are in A pose, even though the model is in a slight pose. We will be going A pose or T pose for these builds. Okay, all of them, A pose or T pose. Okay, now you'll see here, this is a Z-sphere build example. What do you notice between the Z-sphere build and the Maya build? Starts at the hip, starts in that middle point and works its way out. And I kind of target the same shapes as I go through. Torso first, then appendages. The only difference here would be the head, because Z-sphere is so easy to put the head on it. But then the hands get added, hands are added. Right? Body is there, A pose then established, A pose then established. Okay? Now, in Z-spheres, why did I just target the A pose right away? Well, this is what guy would be considered a challenge character. Anything that doesn't have front, side, back, right? Regular old images, character sheet, I consider them a challenge. Why are they a challenge? Everything else is more difficult. I don't have a direct thing that I'm following anymore. So we do have challenge characters. You're not required to select them, but everyone likes sometimes they're cool characters and they want to do that character. At the end of week one, they will be in A pose or T pose. So why I chose a side and I followed it because that allowed me to get the proper measurements and proportions. And then I can very easily pose it and generate the pose that I need. Right, super easy to kind of go from there. And Dynamesh starts the same way. You start to shape out and start through those types of things. Okay. Another plus in Maya is we usually can get away with less geometry out of the gate, whereas ZBrush made up a little bit more. So as far as these shapes are concerned, there's not too much of a difference. This one's more rounded, of course, but at a cost of 50,000. I think he's actually more like 70,000. And this guy's at 1,200 polygons. So a little bit of a difference in build thinking. Okay? So let's take a look at actually doing some of these things. We'll do the first read first. I'll show you how to use the pen tool and how to kind of go through that. And then the Maya build, I think we're pretty well versed in Maya and with the information on FSO. Showing you where to go with that. Yeah, I'm not too worried. Okay, so here's some examples. Now, you can kind of tell this character's kicked to the side a little bit. I do encourage students to correct the images as best as they can. Right? This could have been very simple. It looks like the whole image is skewed. I would have made a selection, grabbed skew, pushed it over, tried to straighten out that center line a little bit. It's just going to help you out. But look at how they chose. This is a more simple character. There's not a lot of things going on here. So even though this is one piece of fabric, they went ahead and made a difference between the trim work and the actual piece of fabric. Right? Even though the glove and the little bands here are one piece, they identified those as separate. The boot the same way, because they wanted to push this simple asset a little bit further to match complexity or hit that required complexity. Even the face, they separated the face to the neck and the arms. So very nicely done. Here's another one. Again, this character, a lot of people just go belt and all is one piece. But look at how they separated that. Why is this important? Because if I'm actually making a laundry list of things that I need to take care of, if I oversimplify this stage of my planning process and I make this all one color and one shape as I'm breaking apart the pieces, chances are I might think to model it that way. I would definitely not model. I might sculpt it really quickly that way, as a proof of concept, but this is, all these different pieces that they identified would be different pieces on the model. It's just gonna be more accurate, easier to manage, better end result. That one's really nice, I like that one. This is the one that's on FSO, and then this is what the one looks like. We're gonna open this one up and kind of go through. This is finished. This is what it starts like. Okay, so with anything new, has anybody really gotten into the pen tool using shape mode, path, profile? Okay, good. All right. Not everybody raised their hand, so if you've never really used these things, just get yourself a blank sheet, whatever, throw some color on there, and practice, please, practice. Right? Get a feel for the actual tool first before you try and frustrate the heck out of yourself, and then you hate it, okay? So we're going to be using the pen tool, and I know it says path on there, but I'm going to tell you right now, right? I would probably, you can go the path mode, but I think shape with this particular exercise works a little bit better. So you grab the pen tool, you change it from path to shape. You've got fill, so you can pick your color. And then you've got what kind of stroke we want. We don't really want a stroke on this, so I'm going to tell no stroke. Okay? And what's nice is it automatically generates a layer for you. If you go the other method where you're just using path, it does not generate a layer for you, and you're going to have to manually keep track of those. For the other assignment, that'll be in week 2, where we look at the images a little bit more in depth and we do contour lines. I do prefer paths versus shapes. So we'll get into that in week 2. Right, but if I draw my points, there's a shape. Okay, and if I want to draw another one, I can literally just start another shape, and you can see that if I'm off of that point, it generates a new layer for me, which is awesome. I don't have to manage it. Okay, but let's look at functionality of the tool. So you'll notice if I just click, I get linear tangents. If I click, hold, and drag, I will get a spline. So this will make animators really happy, because now you're getting some things that remind you of animation. Okay? But sometimes I'll just plop points down, and then I'll convert them. So you're not stuck with what you put down there. If you hold the Option key or Alt, I don't know what your keyboards have on them anymore. Mine says both Alt and Option. I think they took one of them off. Option, okay. So I'm going to hold Option. And you'll notice that when I hover over a point, it gives me a different type of marker, and that is the Convert Point. I can pull that. I can change it. If I click on one that's spline, I get linear. Now, if you want to reselect while that tool is on, you can hold Command. The command is going to give you the selection tool. You can see that I can grab single points. I can move them around. I'm going to convert that one. Careful if you go the wrong direction. Switch to Command and move it around. If I want to change tangency, give it a little bit more weight to hold. If you hold Alt while doing this, you break tangent. Okay? So Alt or Option and Command are your go-tos. They're really going to help you refine your shapes. If you want to add a point, just click on, just let go of everything, but make sure the pen tool is active, and just click on your point, or click on your curve. If you want to get rid of a point, you'll see it switches to a minus. You hover over it and click and get rid of Okay, so really cool, easy to work with, and you're utilizing stuff you already are familiar with. If you're going to make a ball bounce, you're familiar with where you're going to put your keyframes and how you're going to adjust your tangents. Same thing, if you're getting ready to cause shape change or show shape change between something, you know the start of your arc, the arc itself, and the end of your arc. So you're already thinking like this. We already know that if we bring 3 points close together on a polygon model and we hit the 3 key, we get a sharper corner. If we take them away from each other and the average area is larger, we get a more rounded corner. It's the same thing here. If I bring these points closer together, I get a sharper transition or a broader transition. Okay. So if we were going to do this on the actual asset, okay, I'm going to think about layering, right? What's the background, midground, and foreground of his outfit? That's going to save me time. So when I do the jacket, I can tell that these cuffs, these collars, and that shirt are over the jacket. So I'm not going to spend time trying to take the jacket line all around the collar. I'm just going to go straight across and use layering to give me some natural shape. Right? So just to demonstrate this, I'll do the actual collar and then the shirt underneath. And please, get up close and personal with your asset. You need to be able to see things. Right? Even if it's pixelated, I don't care. If your image is too pixelated, one of the tricks you can do is zoom in on it on your screen and then screenshot it. That's sometimes a way to kind of trick it so it's not super pixelated and it still won't be the best resolution, but it might be a little better, more manageable for you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that collar, and I'm going to grab that tool, switch to something that is reminiscent of the collar, nice gray, and we're going to go through. So I'm going to do this real just wherever I see a curve, I'm just going to click the shape change. Do it real quick, just kind of make sure it's done. Right, remember, the goal is to finish. Okay? That would be a horrible grade if that's submitted, but if you did this on everything, at least it would be done, right? It's better than a 20. Yeah, 70 is way better. Okay, so now that I've got that there, I'm going to go ahead and bring the opacity down on that layer. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Now it's time to refine. Okay, so first thing is adjusting. Now once you get a feel for it, if you don't want to go this route, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, you can drag and drop your points in and put some curvature in them as you go. I'm going to hold control, grab it and move it. Okay, and sometimes I'll take and I'll nudge them with the arrow keys. Once it's selected, once that point is actually grabbed, I can move it. If you hold shift, you're going to get 10 pixels. Single move is going to be 1 pixel. And that can make or break the success of your shapes. Okay. Now, as far as color choice, it's up to you how you want to go about this. You're not like, oh, this has to be matching. I've seen some pretty random colors thrown on here. And it looks good. I'm not gonna grade you on that. Perfect. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You'll see that transition. There. Cool. If I've got to add any points, then, first task, establishing all the points. Right? Make sure you get all your shapes in there. Then you go through each shape and make your adjustments. Okay? And now let's do the collar. So I'll go ahead and we'll hide this. Go ahead and grab. This time I will click and drag. So. Fire. There. Say it would be like that. Look at that. It's actually over there. Those two go together. So. Okay. And then we put the head, and the head would give me, the head and neck would give me the break on the back. Right? So, if anybody's ever messed with those little like vinyl things and you built up the clothing styles or whatever on there, old toy. But it's kind of like that. Right? People tend to try and, let me show you one that we get. They try and find quick ways, so they'll usually do a selection too, or they'll try and select and then paint bucket fill. It just doesn't look good, it's bad. Is it a quick way to get it done with a bad grade? Yeah. But if I can tell that you didn't use the tool, because it is a requirement, I could technically hit it for didn't follow directions and it gets a 0, right? I try not to be that kind of person. Sometimes. Okay, so this is someone's like, oh, I found a faster way to do it. I said, cool, let me see what you've got. They go, this is what I did, it's really fast. I go, yeah, but it looks terrible. This is our way, this is your way. This is why we want you to do it with the shapes and not. What they were doing was they were using shape, they were converting that to a selection, and then paint bucket filling it. And they didn't understand feathering edges or anything like that, or feathering your selection, which it's still, even if you feather your selection, it's not going to be as nice as these are just straight up shapes. Okay? So they were going through all that hassle and then getting a bad result. So if you're going to go through the hassle, you might as well just do it the better way. Yes. And that worked out. As you can see here, another example of going through and making that. Okay. So you'll be doing that on 2 of your characters. Pretty self-explanatory. Does it take a little bit of time? Yes. But I feel confident that by the next class, you guys should definitely be able to generate both of these in your Maya build, for sure. Right? Select your characters, both your first reads and your Maya Maya blocked out none. It'd probably be a good place to be coming in Wednesday. Questions about that, assignment? Anything? No, okay.
Do we get action on it?
Yeah.
Or could we get more than 2 weeks?
I know. Well, we've had that question before. Will I get more points for doing more? We get into that discussion of quality versus quantity. I'd rather see quality, focus on the two, make them as awesome as possible, before you even think about getting into other ones.
You said you the other reason to help us model the record.
Well, yes, we're showing you this because this is a practice that a lot of modelers use. You don't see a lot because a lot of people are like, oh, it takes too much time. But a lot of modelers that get into things, they will take the time to look at the reference and break it down into, well, they're kind of planning. And this is one of the stages where you may not go through this pen tool. We like to show you the pen tool because it gets you used to tangency and how to work with arcs and curves, so that's why I really like it. And it just looks really clean. But there's a lot of times where I'll pick my image up there and I might color in areas and be like, this is going to be polygons, I'm going to sculpt this, I'm going to build this in Maya, and I will break apart my reference and create a plan. So this is kind of one of those things that helps you do that. But if it helps you, by all means, that's what we're showing you. And later on, you might be like, I'm just going to color these in really quickly, which is fast and easy to do. Not for us. Okay, so now let's look at the blockout. Look at the Maya blockout. And before you do any type of modeling, grab your references and look at them. Right? This is the guy that I work with sometimes for demonstrations. And you can see here, I know the image isn't straight because I took the picture from on the wall with my cell phone. But it goes from this to this. Much more straightened out. And you can see it didn't destroy the image. I even moved, I moved some stuff around it to realign it. He's still a little off, his head is a little off center, but it's enough that I can compensate with. But I see, see a lot of people, that their whole upper body's over here, and they're having a hard time with symmetry, lining their shapes. The easier you can make your life, the better this process is going to be. So if you've got to go in there in Photoshop, if you have any questions on how to do that stuff, again, what I did was I did a selection on his body, and I actually just skewed up his upper half. So let's look at one more thing really quick in Photoshop. I think a lot of people don't realize that you can do stuff like this. So if one is laying out your grids, your guides, let's just shift and grab the block of the guide to help measure. So you can see I've got one going down the center of the body. Pretty straight, not bad, just a little twisted. But the other thing people ask is, well, the arm is really close and I want to kind of model more A pose than T pose. Sometimes you can get away with this. There is a big difference between A pose and T pose. So if I put a marker here on my shoulder and I try and hold this as straight as possible, what happens? Shoulders drop because it drops from here. This begins to rotate. Everything drops down. There's a huge difference between A pose and T pose. Some of the models are already in T pose. Just model them that way. Some of them are kind of like this is a very loose A pose, but you'll find with him modeling his hand so close to his pants becomes kind of an issue in some cases. So I might want to modify that. I might want to adjust the image. And what we can do here is just a simple selection, and sometimes it works out real good, and sometimes it doesn't. But if I come in here and say, all right, I double tap, maybe it's a little bit complicated. I'm just gonna use the polygon select. Now I'm kind of getting into gray area. Can we modify reference for ease of modeling? Yes, but carefully. Can you change the style of the artwork? No. That's a big no. You will model what you see. That is our job as modelers. We want to make sure what we're doing, that we're giving the company or the client exactly what they want. But can we make modifications to make our life a little easier in certain cases? Yes. So in this one, I made a selection. Now you can do layer via copy, which would just be right-clicking on that. If you want to do a non-destructive workflow, right? Non-destructive, I would tell you to build with layers in mind instead of just something like Command T, which is going to bring up your free transform. But with free transform, I can grab it, I can move the arm a little bit, and then bring it back up without destroying the image. Right? I can go in there and any type of discrepancy, I can just kind of re-sketch that in and color this in white again. But this is I adjusted the original. Okay? If I don't want to do that, I would recommend a layer via copy and then painting things out. So a layer via copy looks like this. Right click, layer via copy. You're going to get a copy of a selection, and then I can move or rotate that. Now you're still going to see stuff underneath, but I can add another layer underneath this, or in between, and I can just paint out. Right? So I can just grab my brush, white, good. Right? Make sure you don't get me super far. Okay? Now that's going to give me a much easier time. I haven't changed. I didn't completely change his anatomy. I didn't completely change his pose, but pulling it out a couple inches, right? And a couple millimeters could equal several inches inside of the real world. So this might make it a little bit easier to manage working with these things that are in close proximity to each other. Okay? So look at your reference, make changes. If you have a question, if you changed it too much, or if you should go down that road, screenshot, email me. I get back definitely within 24 hours. If you don't hear anything back within 24 hours, I may have missed it, or you didn't send it right, or send me a reminder. If I got a whole bunch of emails out there, I got a grading, a full day of gradings. Okay, but I don't mind reminders. Nice reminders, please. Not the, hello, I sent you something 2 days ago. What's going on? Do your job. I got emails like that. They're terrible. Really put me in a bad mood. And I ignore it longer. So, let's see. So, getting into the blockouts, we'll do, I think I did already, but I'm not sure. Nope, I sure did. Now, I know you know how to use Maya. I'm not going to go through much. This is, guys, just like a roughed-in torso. Just want to kind of talk to you about a couple things in Maya, and then we'll call it a day. Then you guys go, well, not call it a day, but that. Yes. All right, so when you're looking at starting a model, there's a couple things that I keep in mind. I'm a big rule of three type person, and center lines, especially when establishing. So you'll notice on this, there's some stuff here, and it's important stuff. Right? I don't want to go too heavy too fast in mine, because we are now literally moving independent vertices, but I want to maintain center lines. So you'll notice that we have a center line in the front of the body. I also have a center line in the side of the body, right, in the back. I'll have the same thing in the arms. This helps keep orientation. The front of the arm, there will be an edge that runs all the way down the front, top, bottom, and back. Same with the legs, same with the hands, same with the feet, fingers, face, all that stuff. Now, the other thing I'm paying attention to is the rule of three. And what I mean by that is it's not really a rule. I think we just started calling it that because we wanted to have a reference point. But I want to make sure that every plane, right, when you start looking at something, you have plane changes. And the plane change is when the arc occurs. So when I go from my center line to the side plane of a body, I want to have at least 3 points to control that arc in the beginning. Right? Because every time we do any kind of arc, you need the start of the arc itself, and then the end of the arc. So I want to make sure that I have 1, 2, 3 points. And when we go to the side of the body, it's the same thing. 1, 2, and then the other one's on the other side, 3. And the back is the same. So this is how I start figuring out how much geometry I need for at least the basic shape. Okay, so this is why I decided, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sharing the head. I think it's a 12-sided cylinder is what it ends up being. And the reason an 8-sided leg and arm work is because an 8-sided cylinder gives me 1, 2, 3 planes for the front of the arm. 3 points. It gives me 3 for the side, 3 for the underside, and 3 for the back. Perfect, right? So I'm keeping that tradition throughout the model. Now, as I'm beginning to create, placing points becomes important. What am I targeting out of the gate? Am I putting a whole bunch of geometry? No, what I'm looking for is I'm placing points at key shape changes. Okay? So it's either key shape changes or things that I know I'm going to need later. So let's evaluate what. Geometry has a job. I think that's a very important thing to understand, is you need to know why you're putting geometry in a model. Because when I see characters and they've got 5 edges running down the front but 2 on the side, I'm going, why is that there? And somebody goes, I don't know, I just threw that in. Well, that's a bad answer. If somebody asks you, if you're an animator and somebody says, why are those keyframes there? You should be able to tell them. Otherwise, they're like, it's just sloppy. It's just sloppy work, right? Coding's the same way. Why is this line of coding here? Okay. The answer. So you'll notice we have neck, we have top of the shoulder, mid shoulder, and bottom. Right. This gives me the 1, 2, 3 for the front of the arm. Sets us up for other stuff. You can also see we've got this for the rib cage. Yes, he's wearing a jacket, but I don't want to target for that. Right, we have the 1, 2, 3 for what would be the leg, and then we have the top or top of the pelvic bone. Now, when I'm done with this model, I don't leave it like this, right? So, but for shaping, it's quicker and easier to run this way. But what do you notice difference about that topology and this topology? Smoother. What else? Focus on what I'm showing you.
You got more edge loops.
More edge loops. Why? Why do you think it's important?
For when you put it in the ZBrush.
There you go. Okay. Do you know how or why it's better to do this when I go in ZBrush?
Because if you don't have enough edge loops, you get uneven divisions.
Very good. Yes, exactly. Parameterization's all messed up. Parameterization is the measurement between your components. So if I take this in a ZBrush and I don't try and even, I don't want it to be perfect, it's wasting time. But if I don't at least think about it and add edges in to support the sculpture phase, I'm going to sacrifice resolution in certain areas to get more resolution and where I need it. You have to think, when I'm sculpting, and I take my brush and I go down the structure, every time it hits a vert, it moves that vert. That's how it works. It repositions it. If there's nothing there, I have no control over that arc. So I smooth it. And then I get way more geometry here where the spacing is nice, just to get enough here. Now, some might be thinking, oh, just Dynamesh, keep going. You could do that, but Dynamesh is not always the best option. Dynamesh is great for certain procedures, and I'll talk about that in the video that you're going to use for the integrated, but it is not something I use all the time. If I'm going to build something in Maya, I can probably just use straight up subdivisions and build that one, right? So sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't. But whenever we're building and we know we're going to go into ZBrush, I like to pay attention to the parameterization, the spacing of my edges. So at the end of the day, you might have focused on major shape changes and functional topology, but then before you're done, add in some extra to even out the mesh. Now, should we just add an edge in? What's going to happen if I just insert edge loop onto this? Let's take a look. Let's see. So we're at edges. I think I went to edges. I'm pretty sure. Let's drop that in. Okay. What do you notice about how I put that in? You notice a shape change from this point to this point to this point? Pretty straight for me. If I go in here and I just throw in a bunch of edges, I'm going to get flat spots in my model, so I'm saying hold that shape. Okay? So one of the things you can do as you're going through, shift will add width curvature, right? So if you're going in, it's not perfect, please don't, what the hell, you told me to use this button, and I can get my model all messed up. It's better than having to shape all the points, right? But it does a good job in some areas where now it's going to contour to some of the shape, which makes adding in some points pretty easy. Right, like right there, not a good work. But this worked out nice. If it saves me some time in some areas, I like it. But even that one edge added so much more to the model and its cleanliness. Right? So just be thinking about it as you build, right? And since again he doesn't have a side shot, so trying to get his side profile, I have to take what I know about a silhouette of a character. Or what could I do? What could I do? If I don't know, I don't have the image there, and I'm like, man, I really don't want to trust my instincts on what side of this character should look like standing like that. Right? Find more reference. What if, I love it when people tell me they can't find reference images on Google. What else can I do? Yeah, take a picture, get in the mirror, stand sideways, stand the way my character's standing, take a picture. Use that. Okay. But we know that with the torso, the rib cage comes out, 8th or 9th rib is usually the one furthest out. He's wearing a jacket, so I'm just looking for that arc, pulling in for the small of the back, rolling around for the scapulas and the upper part of the rib cage in the back, and pulling in. Right? So there's, again, anatomy helping with some of these decisions. Right? Now you also notice that what am I doing here? What do you notice about the shape of that? It's a little more rounded already, right? Trying to pre-plan, this would be where the leg is going to come from. I need my 8 points, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gives me the 2 planes, and I did the same exact thing up here, getting ready for the arm. It goes right here. Situated topology there, rounded it out, and then started extruding, kind of rethinking the shape that I'm going to pull. This works really nice. A 12-sided cylinder works really good for most standard characters, but if you've got it like there's like some sort of crazy space badger, he's a bigger character. He might need a 20-sided. I wouldn't pick anything random like 13, or anything like that. Try and keep it even in your numbers, and the Maya build goes pretty nicely. Okay? So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll call it a day. If you have any questions about the images you're looking at or the images you're gonna select, please email me. If there's anything about how you would approach the build, please email me, and I can answer those questions super quick. Cool? So you know what you're gonna do, you're gonna go to lab, you're gonna do your integrated assignment first, only spend the 2 hours on that, then get into select your characters, start your first reads, and then hopefully by Wednesday, you've done your first reads, you banged out your Maya build, and we can get started on Z-spheres and Dynamesh and all that. Right? Yeah! All right, well, have fun, get it done, and I will see you on the other side.